Well, thanks so much for staying with us here on Morning Live. Just gone 7:10. Now, thousands of teachers across the country are actually getting ready to return to school, or they were expected to return to school yesterday. And this after the Minister of Basic Education announced last week that teachers should return to school this week, and grades 7 and 12, those learners are expected to return on the 1st of June. Now, some unions, however, say that they are not satisfied with the hygienic conditions at many schools, and they also say that teachers' lives are being placed in danger. And joining us now for a comprehensive look at what's currently happening, we have with us Mugwena Maluleke, who's the General Secretary of the South African Democratic Teachers Union, SATU. Basil Manuel is the Executive Director of the National Professional Teachers Union, NAPTOSA, and Klopper, the Chief Executive of the South African Teachers Union, SAO, and they all here to talk to us about schools reopening and whether we are ready. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time, and welcome to all of you here on Morning Live. Now, Mr. Maluleke, I want to start with you. In your view, did the department meet the prescribed safety measures to keep teachers and learners safe when they return to school?
No, they did not. They have said that they are ready from the 11th, then came the 18th, then came the 25th, and they have not been ready in terms of compliance. And clearly it is that is in violation of the regulation that they themselves have passed. We are seeing a number of provinces deciding on their own dates on when the teachers can return, but they have always not been listening to a very sensible and reasonable request. Make the schools to be ready. Nobody is saying teachers should not come back to work. We are merely saying let's comply because we are dealing with a virus that nobody has a vaccine to. But a sensible thing being said this morning by the spokesperson that they have always been saying if the schools are not ready, don't return. That is not what they said to us. They said you are going back, you are being paid, you can't stay at home. So yeah, I must say that the schools are now, they are planning for the 1st of June. Now the 1st of June is a disaster in waiting, because if they could not be ready for the teachers for the 18th and the 25th, how on earth would they be ready for the learners on the 1st of June? Because we're talking about big numbers. They haven't even entered into agreement with private operators who are transporting our children to school. So the cleaning of the schools is going on, and we don't hope that they will finish. In Mpumalanga, for example, there are problems of payments. We are being told that the contractors have not been paid. In the Free State, they are also experiencing a problem. So it is also going to throw the 1st of June out of the window. But the department is still planning for a disaster.
Mr. Manuel, you've also come out and you're on record saying that many schools are unprepared for teachers across the country. Do you think this will change in the next week?
Well, I don't think it will change, given the fact that now they are abdicating the responsibility of the department now to the SGBs, whose SGBs still have got to be trained to be able to supervise the disinfecting of our schools and the cleaning. There are no screeners, there are no workers that have been employed in the schools to assist in making sure that when the learners are back in the classroom, those particular classrooms have got to be sanitized from time to time. The test for any reopening of the school during this particular pandemic, it is that the school must have a test track and be able to isolate. The program for that, it is nil. It is not there.
Right.
To deal with. Yeah.
Basil, Manuel, your response to that question as well, whether the schools will be prepared given what's happened yesterday and on the 18th, as Mr. Maluleke said, where teachers were expected to return. Do you think that things will change in the next week to be prepared to receive learners?
I don't believe that it's possible, simply because if you look at the trajectory we are on at the moment, and if you look at what we are achieving per day in various, you will see that we are far from a point where we can be confident to say we'll be ready by the 1st. So I want to agree with my colleague Maluleke and say that, in fact, what we are doing now is we are planning for an embarrassment. We are planning for something not to be reached. And all we have been saying as unions since time immemorial is, let's get the schools ready. When they're ready, let us do a national inspection, and then let us then announce these are the dates. But when we rush ahead and make pronouncements, what appears to be misinformation or an embellishment of what is out there, then it chases everybody around, it raises stress levels, and parents and teachers are stressed out at this moment. I must tell you, they don't know what is happening, simply because they are getting to their places of work and places definitely not attended to. PPEs haven't been delivered and the like. So we are saying definitely we don't believe the first is attainable.
So, Chris Klopper, you said that your members, SAU members in only 2 provinces, the Western Cape and Gauteng, returned to school yesterday. Why was this?
Well, the reality is exactly what my 2 colleagues have told you now, and that is that even the 2 provinces that intimated that they were ready were not 100% ready. They were not ready to accept, for example, let's take Gauteng, for example. They were not ready to accept the teachers. Only the school management teams were at schools yesterday. At the earliest that they will return to schools, the teachers will be tomorrow. And even then, we doubt if they will be ready. The other 7 provinces are nowhere close to being ready. And we must bear that in mind, that the majority of provinces and schools are not able to accept any learners. If you look at what's going to happen on Monday, we're going to have another about 1.5 million learners returning to the school. And I can tell you now that those 7 provinces that intimated they were not ready now will definitely not be ready come Monday. And as my colleagues have said, we're putting ourselves up for a huge embarrassment, and we're going to get to the point where people will start losing faith in the system, and that we can't afford.
So speaking, Mr. Klopper, about losing faith in the system, and that is inevitable because at this point, parents do not know what to believe. They do not know what to do with their children, quite apart from the uncertainty of dealing with the virus. You have this sort of chaos now unfolding with regard to the reopening of schools. So how do you allay parents' fears at this stage? Mr. Klopper?
Well, let's start with the beginning, and that is that the province is not telling the minister the truth. They are throwing her under the bus. And we must put that on record. I think the provinces are not playing the game. What we must tell parents is that teachers are ready, teachers are eager and able to do what they are supposed to do, and that is to teach children. But the teachers can't do that if their own lives and their own health is in danger. And what we must, that as my colleagues have said, get the system ready. Make sure that everyone is absolutely au fait with what they are supposed to do. And if we can do that, and the school governing bodies are comfortable, and they can also declare that the schools are safe for the return of learners and teachers, then we can start the system up. But we're doing a rush job now, and it's not doing anyone a favor.
So, Basil, Manuel, what should teachers do when the prescribed safety measures have not been adhered to in their respective schools? What are you telling your members at NAPTOSA?
We are telling them that we must be responsible, because being responsible with the lives of our members. You cannot go into a place that is not ready to accept you. You cannot go into a place that hasn't been cleaned, where the PPEs haven't been provided in sufficient. And of course, nothing in place to ensure that your feeling of safety is first attended to, because safety is a feeling first. Because remember, if you don't seem to be safe, how do we expect that our parents will have faith in you being able to look after their children? And so we are saying to them, do not enter schools that have not been attended to in terms of the many non-negotiables we've put on the table. And these have been accepted by the DBE. They've accepted that these are reasonable non-negotiables. And our members must err on the side of caution. Their lives are more important to us than saving 2 or 3 lessons out of a curriculum. We are the masters of the curriculum. We will determine what is important, and we will always know how to get our children to the next level in the next year. But we cannot replace their lives if, in fact, they start falling ill.
Mr. Mugwena Maluleke, it sounds like a veritable mess waiting to happen. And you have said that, like the other union representatives, that you will tell your members to return only if it's safe. But what does that mean in terms of this phased approach to reopening schools? Because you mentioned in a previous answer during this interview that only those provinces or schools that are ready should return. But what does that mean? Are we able to have that sort of haphazard reopening happen at this stage, Mr. Maluleke?
Thank you for that question. Indeed, we are not comfortable with these staggering reopening of the schools for our learners. We have said that we are one country, one school calendar, and that's why we are saying the 1st of June is not a reasonable time for us to be able to be prepared. And these rushing by the Department of Education, and as Chris, my colleague, says that the provinces are putting the minister under the bus, we may also change it and say, what if these provinces are being intimidated to present reports that are not accurate, are not based on a data that can be reliable and that can be authenticated? What if there is a push for the schools to be reopened because of other proxies around that? So we are saying our teachers and our workers do what Manuel is saying. You don't put your life in danger. You cannot allow yourself to be in a school with 1.5 particular school is not ready. We have warned the minister a long time ago, take your time, make sure that we are ready for the return of the learners. But we're not being listened to. We have said this is a top-down approach, and we are still wanting to say it again here on record. This is planning for a disaster, and therefore we are going to be seeing many problems and crises come the 1st of June. We cannot accept this staggered approach. We want one uniform school calendar. When the learners come back to school, they must come on the same day and not on different days. So the 1st of June is not reasonable at all. And therefore, we can say to our parents, to have confidence in this particular thing, wait for a proper report, which is collaborated through the provinces, because the provinces know now what is it that they're supposed to do. And therefore, the minister must not come and pronounce things that the provinces have not done at all. So that is our message, is that you have got to be responsible for your life and the lives of many out there, because I have to start with myself. If I am not going to be responsible, I am going to endanger my family and my community and my country. And the first test is simple. The numbers are going up and we want the numbers to go down. And we don't have that particular program in our school to be able to check and isolate. As it is, it's happening in Philippines now. We are going to be having chaos in our situation if we allow the first to be the return for our children. I will advise any parents, don't take your child to school on the 1st of June. The schools are not ready to receive your child until such time that we have confidence in the system. Don't do that. We must build the confidence of our people. We must have an inclusive approach. We must work together. There is no time for us to be fighting. We must be cooperating with each other, listening to each other, and do the right thing. The things we have put on the table are sensible and reasonable.
All right. Given what all of you have mentioned, to just speak unambiguously now, Mr. Maluleke, 1st of June, saying that you want one uniform calendar for all schools in South Africa, and given what the reality is on the ground, given that you all are saying that the provincial departments of education are actually not being honest with the Minister of Basic Education, will there be a return to schooling on the 1st of June for grade 7 and 12? Unambiguously, I just want to quickly run through all three to find out what your position is there. Will there be a return to schooling next week?
From SATU, we are saying no, there will be no return to school by the learners on the 1st of June, unambiguously so, because the system is not ready. And the teachers who will be in the schools from this week, they must work until such time that they have prepared the schools to be ready for our learners. So we are unambiguous about that. I think we've answered the question. No return by the learners on the 1st of June.
Naptosa, your response to that same question?
In no uncertain terms, there is nothing that gives us confidence that the 1st is going to be attainable. So no, the schools won't be ready.
Chris Klopper?
I'd really like to say that they would be ready, but I can't see how 7 of those provinces can ever be ready. I think it's impossible. I think we're chasing a dream at this particular moment in time. I don't think it's going to be possible whatsoever.
And in all of this, we haven't even spoken about the curriculum, because when children return to school, one would imagine at this point, given the time lost, there would have to be a curriculum that has been revised, that's been tweaked to take care of what is left in terms of time. Basil, Manuel, has anything been said about that? Have you received that at all?
There has been work done on the curriculum. Let's make that clear. And as unions, we've been participating in it. But the problem is the model that we are using. If you don't know how many days you have left, if you don't know what model you're using to return, because we know that the grade 12 and grade 7 staggered return of classes, not of schools, of classes, is not sustainable if you are going to look at social distancing, if you bring in the next grade and the following grade. So the model has to be looked at. And so the planning that has been done on various assumptions. But we need to be clear, and we need to know, and the country needs to know what model exactly we're going to use. We've got to take the country into our confidence, because without that, the teachers actually don't know what they must be planning for. The management teams that will be returning to school at some stage or the other, who have to begin planning for this, don't know exactly what they're planning for, because we have no calendar, we have no model that we are going to use for the rest of the year. And that is what further complicates and further makes a mockery of an idea that we'll be returning on the 1st of June.
And Chris Klopper, of course, the issue of assessment becomes key as well. Progression to the next grade, this is what many parents are, of course, concerned about as well. But how are you going to essentially make sure that this is done in a fair way at this stage, given that so much time has been lost and we don't know what level of schooling has been done by parents for many of the children in our schooling system? So how is assessment going to work?
Well, what we do know at this particular moment in time is that the June examinations will not take place, that there will be an amendment of the SABC system to facilitate the assessment. But bear in mind what Basil has said, and that is that the principle of social distancing will imply that either you will have to follow a principle, let's say the principle of rotation, that is that, let's say, half of the school attend school on one day and the other half attend school on the other day. Or you implement a system of platooning to be able to ensure that you have 50% of the learners at the school at any moment in time. And that is also going to have a detrimental effect on the amount of teaching time that is available. We haven't received any regulations from the Department of Education. And we believe that you need a uniform set of regulations so that all provinces can work according to that. Because as my colleague Maluleke has said, we are one country. We need one system of regulations so that we know exactly what the overarching framework will be according to which schools will function and how this assessment will work. In terms of the National Senior Certificate Examination, we're still not certain. At this stage, it still remains on the dates that were initially indicated, but even that may be amended.
So, gentlemen, we are out of time. Literally 30 seconds. If each of you can just tell me what it is that you believe is the utmost pivotal message to be delivered to the department from your unions right now. We'll be speaking to the department later on in the show. So 30 seconds each, please, starting with Satu, Mr. Maluleke, your message. What is it that you want the department to take heed of?
The department must now adopt human-centered leadership, listen to the parents, listen to the learners, listen to the teachers. We are the experts of the curriculum, and therefore we'll do our best in terms of going forward. So they must stop planning for a disaster. Let's put the lives and the health of our people first.
And Mr. Manuel?
To the Minister, take us into your confidence. The country needs to know exactly what is going to happen. We as teachers are ready. We are ready to return tomorrow, and we want you to know that, and we want our parents to know that as well.
Mr. Klopper?
Well, our message would be for the Minister and the Department of Education at all levels: take us into your confidence, take our hand of friendship, hand of partnership, and we will help you to get the system up and ready. But up until now, we have been consulted, but we haven't been actually asked for any particular advice at any moment.
Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for your time this morning. Unions NAPTOSA, SATU and SAWU for talking to us about teachers returning to schools across the country yesterday, and of course how they foresee things playing out. And they are united and unambiguous in pronouncing that they do not believe that schools and teachers will be ready for learners to return next week. With that, it's 7:30, time for news.